911, what's your emergency?
The following content is graphic, emotional, and includes dark humor that may not be suitable for all listeners. Discretion is advised. These stories are based on real-life EMS, military, and healthcare experiences. Calls are real, providers are real, names and details have been changed to protect privacy. They may be disturbing to some and are definitely inappropriate for HR department. Any medical or mental health discussion is personal experience, not protocol. Use your damn brain. Follow your local guidelines, and when in doubt, call Med Control. If you're struggling, don't do it alone. Talk to someone, a coworker, a friend, a therapist, or hell, reach out to me. I'll answer. Need help right now? Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org.
All right, welcome back to Dispatch is Dysfunctional. This one hits a little close to home. Today's guest is Joe Henderson. Joe works now as a better dad coach, but this conversation is not just about coaching. It's about identity, pressure, family, and what happens when the job starts taking pieces of you before you even realize you handed them over, and it engulfs you. So, Joe, before the titles, the teaching, the coaching, and the here's what I do now version of yourself, who are you really, and what did the job take from you before you noticed you and realized it?
Oh, all right. So first of all, and it was the big part of me, it was my identity as who I was. Like I would run into people that I went to school with or knew leading up to me being in the police, and that didn't recognize me. They were like, "Wow, you are such a different person." But the biggest impact from me from my life in that situation, I mean, I went in and I ended up having two young fellas not long into the job. But it just affected my life around being at home. I didn't see it at the time, right? Because you're living it. So you're just in the motion of putting one foot in front of the other. And this is where, unfortunately, in this area, we don't see the change because it happens gradually. And, just one shift at a time. And then, you're getting a buildup of, lack of sleep for one. Then your body's completely depleted and drained. And then you're carrying all of this stuff from your shifts that you've been doing or dealt with. And where's your actual release from that? So there is no release. There's no downtime because you're wired to be in a position where you're on the go all the time. You are that person all the time. Even when you take your uniform off, you're still that person. So I found for me, and it wasn't, weirdly enough, I mean, I lost my relationship and stuff as well, but there was other circumstances there as well. I mean, I went through, a traumatic event as well. And I mean, I ended up leaving with PTSD. So I was in a bad way.
Yeah. So you turned into one of the statistics, it sounds like, in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something like it crept up on me. I had no idea. I mean, obviously I lost my relationship over it. I ended up being a single dad, had, whatever time I could see my boys, so that it completely changes your life. So if you allow, the uniform will strip you of your identity because you are no longer the person under the uniform. You are the uniform.
And like you said, it does it at very gradual increments. And I think a lot of us that have been doing it for any given number of years, we hit that spot at one time or another. Mine was probably about 4 years ago. My family's like, look, you can't live the job. You can work it, but you can't live it. Or we're leaving. I'm like, okay, makes sense. I didn't realize it till it was brought to me like, hey, you're kind of overdoing it here. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is, you know, you don't you don't really know what you're losing at first. You know, if you're feeling your pride, your purpose, or your belonging leave first. In the end, you know what I mean?
You know what's funny though? You just hit on a word. Our pride gets in the way because you wear that uniform and you're so used to being that person that turns up to shit fights. And you're the one that's there dealing with it and fixing it. So therefore, you know what? Like, this is what I do for a daily job. Like, this is what I do. I turn up and fix shit. Right? And then you're carrying that pride of, this is what I do for my daily job. So I can't be like this. I can't be in a bad way. I just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other.
And that's when it starts eating at you.
Well, it does. Yeah. I mean, I had colleagues who, you know, would say to me, hey, do you realize that you're sort of reacting to things a bit different to what you were? I'm like, no. They're like, oh man, we've seen this and we've seen this, you know, like it's a small thing, but you would never have reacted like that before. So, you know, others can see it. We don't, because we're just in that bubble and we're just doing what we're doing. We're reacting however we're reacting at the time. And you know, we don't see it because we're sitting here with it, so close to it. We don't see the changes, but everyone else around you can see the changes.
Takes the outside eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, yeah.
funny
Look,
thing is, we should notice it more in our partner and our spouses than we do, and should start saying more before we do. Again, my wife's the one that pulled me to the side, like, "Hey, you got to fix this. Your kids are starting to struggle. I'm starting to struggle. Fix it."
yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, look, even after, and this is the weird thing as well, like even after my relationship broke down, you know, I was basically single dad then and still just trying to go through the motions, right? And then I ended up leaving the job through PTSD. And I'll go into that actually a bit because that day was something that I never saw coming, and how it hit me was unbelievable.
go into that.
So so I'd gone off the road, right? So I'd been general duties. I don't know what you guys call it in the US, but just out on the road, you know.
Patrol officer.
Okay. So I'd been in that role for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And admittedly, there was, I could tell you the other story that sort of helped lead me there. There was 2 parts to it. But I had to get off the road. I needed a break from the road. I was becoming angry, and my boss sort of pulled me aside, hey, look, you know, this is what we're seeing. So I ended up going to driver training, just training recruits and stuff like that. And anyway, that's where one of my colleagues as well had noticed. I'd been there about 2 years, and he'd noticed that the changes. Anyway, then we'd had a change of boss, and unfortunately, that area didn't have a good name, just for what some people had pushed the boundaries in regards to what they could do and what they couldn't do, right? So it left a bit of a bad name. Anyway, so he came in to clean it up or whatever. And for some reason, I ended up with a target on my back. And I didn't understand why. But I was like, okay. One of my colleagues just sort of pulled me aside and said, hey, just letting you know, mate, like he's looking at you for some reason. I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm like, okay, no dramas. Anyway, And me being in that state, I was like, you know what? F you. So I walked into his office, closed the door, said, I hear you've got a problem with me. He's like, whoa, hold on a minute. Like, I said, no. I said, if you've got something to say to me, let's just get it out. Let's air it. Let's go. I mean, don't beat around the bush. I'm right here in front of you. Anyway, he wouldn't do it. But that was someone I wasn't, right? I wasn't one of those people walk in and confront the boss and do all that sort of thing. So I was sort of teetering on the edge, but I still didn't see it. Anyway, so it got quite aggressive in the office. I went home that night and thought about everything. I was like, wow, that's not me. I would never do that. So I was like, okay, when I go into work tomorrow, go in and see him, apologize. So look, whatever, I've got a lot going on, whatever it is. So I turn up to work the next day, walk in and sat down and then went to apologize. I couldn't talk. Could not physically get the words out. And then tears streaming from my face. And then I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, who is this person? Like, what is going on? Like, I have no reason to be sitting here like this. And it was like, 9 years of policing had just started streaming out of me. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I just don't understand. I don't know why I'm like this. I have never been like this. Anyway, I was there for probably half an hour and he just sort of said to me, look, he said, you got to go home. Go home, take some time. Go and see the doctor. Just go and take some time. And so I ended up going to the doctor, but that ended up being my last shift.
Oh, wow.
That was it. Never returned. So that's how quickly it can creep up on you.
Did they fire you or did the doctor release you from duty?
No, so basically he put a report together and that was submitted to the QPS here.
Gotcha.
And then obviously over a certain amount of time, you get a certain amount of time obviously to go, okay, can I come back or whatever, like where am I sitting? And then basically they ended up ringing me and just said, look, we've got a letter here from your GP basically saying, don't think you're going to be able to return and you need to make a decision. Like basically I can walk away from the job or they will medically retire me or I'll get forced out. Yeah, that was it. That was the phone call. And I'm like, oh, thanks for, 10 years of my life, like I'm glad it means that much to you guys. And that's how quickly it happened. Like before you know it, I was out. Right. But even then, that was still another 7-8 months before that was finalized. So, but yeah, look, I'm not that person now. Obviously I've left the job and I've done a lot of work on myself, mate, like a lot of work. And just offloaded all the weight that I was carrying, to get that freedom of myself back again. I can laugh freely now. And it's a genuine laugh, like, whereas before everything was fake, so, we all fall into that at some point, because we've got a mask on. Yep. And that's how we deal with things. But yeah, I'm back to genuine.
And that's the funny thing is the jobs that we're in as first responders is it's sneaky, like we were saying earlier, because at first it gives us a purpose, and then it gives you the pride that you feel, and then it gives you a place to belong. But as you just said, if you're not careful and you don't start taking care of yourself or realizing it, you're gonna wake up and not know who you are or what you are.
Yeah, massively, mate. massively.
And I'm sorry to hear that happened to you, but at least it sounds like you're doing a hell of a lot better.
Oh, I mean, look, we all walk our walk, right? We never understand why until later. So I know why now. I needed to learn some lessons out of that, right? But I don't want to see other people get to that point. And I mean, we've got people who are committing suicide. I don't know what it's like over there in the US, but we've got coppers that are taking their life. You know,
I want to say it's one every 45 minutes.
are you kidding me?
Let me double check real quick. But I want to say it is. So right now it's about 18 per 100,000 firefighters committing suicide, 17 per 100,000 law enforcement, and then the general population is 13.5 per 100,000.
So those numbers there, they say it all.
Yeah, it's sad. The first responder breakdown of it is among first reported. Can't speak. Among first reported first responder suicides, law enforcement officers account for approximately 58%, firefighters 21%, EMS 18%, and then of course dispatchers at 2%. And it's uncalled for, you know. And I guess on that note too is, so before you realized all this, how was your normal day? How was it on a normal day for you when you got home?
Oh, I mean, look, it's hard to look. Obviously, my relationship wasn't great either. So we had some struggles there, but it exacerbated everything, right? So I was hard to be around. She wasn't happy either, so therefore things just exacerbated on top of itself. But mate, I'd get home and I just didn't want to be around anyone. I just wanted some time away from people, and that wasn't me. You know, like I enjoy being around people, I enjoy socializing, but you know, and she'd be like, "Oh, we've got this event coming up, and we've got this," and I'm like, "No, I'm not going. No, just don't want to be around people."
So looking that up as you're speaking, so there is one suicide every 11 minutes for the general population in the U.S. And then there's one suicide every 2 to 3 days for first responders,
Wow,
which still is outrageous.
man, that is. But for me, the number that you said earlier has more of a weight to it.
It does.
When you look at it from 100,000 perspective, I'm sorry, because there's a lot less, obviously, emergency service workers than what there is to general population.
Very
but
true.
you look at that stat, that's massive.
It is. It very much is.
So,
And you know, the problem is like you said, when you went to your I would believe you had a chief. I'm not sure how y'all's hierarchy works over there, but when you went to your chief and you let him know, they pretty much gave you the option, like, look, you're done.
yeah,
Yeah.
look. Oh no, that was just a phone call. That was like, honestly, I was at home.
Right. But
You
the
know,
thing is, you know, once you have or let them know you're having an issue with your mental health, it seems like our fields either let you, you know, you have a certain amount of time, like you said, or you're done.
yeah,
And that to me is kind of backwards again worldwide, because we should be helping the ones that are helping everybody else. We shouldn't be
yeah.
make that decision. Hey, fix yourself, then come back to work, or don't fix yourself and don't come back to work.
Well, there was a running joke, even when I was in generals, to be honest, and it came from a boss that I had at the time at the station. And she said, "You need to get on happy pills. That's how everyone survives." And I was like, That's not me. I am not taking anything to try and keep myself happy. That's not who I am.
What's the
I'm
point?
very anti taking drugs and whatever, right?
Right.
Even if it's just to try and level you out. Even after I left the job, they were trying to get me on antidepressants. I was like, no, I don't want them. I want to know how I feel. So if you're going to mask it, how do I know what helps? How do I know what doesn't help? So maybe a little bit of stubbornness in there.
I get that, but at the same time, again, it's one of them. Like we were talking about before the show is it's a double edged sword on that. You either choose your own well being or you choose the job.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is if you choose your own well being, you ain't got a job no more. Well, if you choose your job, you're not going to be here no more.
Nah, no, that's right. Look, you'll get churned up and burned. It's what it is.
Right. And it's completely fucked up. It really is.
Yeah.
Actually, we talked to a doctor yesterday, um, and I like how he put it is the way we are taught, like you were saying about the pharmaceuticals, is this will help you, but if you look at the actual science of it, how is it actually helping you? You know, you can
Yeah.
learn other ways of redoing your neural pathways to not be depressed without the
Yeah,
medication.
100%. 100%.
As a
And
disclaimer, people do need them. Yes, just I know that people, so don't come after me.
yeah. Look, and there are some people who do, and that's to help them get out of that heavy state that they're in at the time.
Right.
But I was a big believer that no, I can find myself out of here. I don't need medication to do it, and I live by that.
I'm not
But
sure how it is over in Australia, but here in America, the pharmaceuticals run the company. I mean, the country. They really do.
yeah, look, I mean, we see it a bit here as well, though. Our doctors obviously, very quick to hand out anything and everything. It just comes down to the person. But I've always been very much like, no, look, my body's given me everything. I'm still here. There's a reason why I can function. I don't need medications to try and help me function. So,
True. And even on that, we can always going back to the job part of it, we can always, clear the calls, clean the cars, do our reports for God's sakes, but still carry every damn thing we have in our job into our own damn living lives.
yeah.
And that's the part that the outside eye of our jobs don't see. And I hate to say it, but every therapist I've seen for anything, they honestly don't have a fucking clue on what I'm talking about because they've never lived it.
And this is the exact thing. Like, I've actually put something together to help emergency services as well, just to be able to manage because of the fact that the timeline in the job now realistically is not long. And even from a government perspective, that's very costly because there's a lot of money that goes into training. There's a lot of money you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of money spent. So why are they not putting something together to hold you there and maintain and get you some longevity out of the job? It's more beneficial for them to have that little bit of money because otherwise they're just wasting the money and losing the money they've just put into all your training. So I've got something that I've put together to help emergency services prolong their career.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's just opening their eyes up to what they're going to be walking into and how they can manage it and how they can separate home life and get longevity out of their home life as well. Because that was the one thing that I couldn't disconnect. And we spoke about it before, you end a shift, you could have a really traumatic shift. Where's that ability or that time to separate your shift and all that trauma before walking in the door to your family? Without going to the pub and hitting the beers and doing all that sort of thing, because that's not going to help you.
No, not at all.
So,
Gonna make it worse.
That's 100% it. So, I mean, look, I'll tell you that the story around. There's two parts to it.
Yes, sir.
That helped send me over. So my best mate was in the job as well, and so if you look, I mean, I knew him through high school, and then we basically became glued at the hip once we finished high school, right? Like my parents used to call him my girlfriend. That's how close we were. It was
That's awesome.
hilarious. Yeah. And funnily enough, I've never had a mate like that since. So, but he was in the job as well. We were both, just he was in a different area to me, so we didn't really get to catch up too often. But so he rang me for my birthday, and it was a religious thing. We always did it. Always, take the piss or whatever we do. And so I was on the phone. He was doing a wide load special, which is basically he's escorting a truck that's got an oversized load to get to its destination. And he's on a police bike. Anyway, so we're talking away. Yeah, happy birthday, rah, rah. And then says, oh, mate, also, I said, I've got some great news for you. I've got some news for you. He said, I'm going to be a dad. And I was like, holy shit. No way. Like, this is something that he's wanted for years. I'd known that. He's always wanted a family. And 30 seconds later, I hear, oh, fuck.
Shit.
Call's dead. I'm like, shit, okay. So, and I mean, I've spoken to him doing these plenty of times before where, he's had to jump off the phone quickly to, deal with something, do whatever. It was always something happening. And anyway, I tried calling back a couple of times, went straight to voicemail. So I'm like, okay, he's definitely dealing with something. And so in the meantime, I've rung his wife, who was a copper as well. And, congratulating her, like, great news, everything else. We got into a full-blown conversation. And then near the end of it, I'm like, hey, I said, look, I don't want to alarm you. I said, but, have you heard from Dan this morning? She's like, no, I haven't. Like, usually I would have heard from him by now. Like, he always gives me a phone call around a certain time. And I said, okay. I said, look, I don't want to alarm you, but this is what I got at the end of the phone call. I said, so when you hear from him, can you get him to give me a call so I know that everything's okay? She's like, yeah, no dramas at all, right? Anyway, as I finished saying that, she goes, oh, I've got to go to the boss's office. They want me in the boss's office. She goes, look, she said, I've got a massive workload. She said, so it's probably something to do with my workload. I'm like, okay. I said, no problem. I said, but look, I'll talk soon. Of course, she's getting taken to the boss's office to be told what's happened. Not even, probably 2 minutes after I got off the phone, my partner at the time, who was my boy's mum, rang me. She said, oh, how far from home are you? I said, oh, look, 5 minutes. She said, oh, a couple of your workmates are here to see you, because I was on leave at the time. And I'm like, yeah, no dramas. I'll get home and walk in the door, and my sergeant's there and one of my work colleagues. And my sergeant knew Dan and knew how close I was with him. And he said, mate, I've got to get you to sit down. He said, I've got something to tell you. And I'm still not registering, right? I'm just like, I'm in mode, like nothing's ever going to happen to him. He's not, you know what I mean? And he just said, mate, Dan was killed this morning. Now, I don't remember this part. I got told afterwards, and I remember, but I went to punch him when he told me. But I don't remember any of it.
Right,
and then, yeah, and then they've grabbed me and held me on the ground and to point I could sort of calm down and let everything register or whatever. And the weird thing is as well, they had no idea that I was on the phone with him. So my partner said to him, "Hey, look, what time did it happen?" And he said, "Look, 7 o'clock or whatever." She goes, "He was on the phone with him when it happened." And he's like, "No fucking way." Anyway, he's walked out straight on the phone, like, "This is what's going on." Anyway, look, don't get me wrong, they were good because they were trying to stay by me at the time as well. But yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot. That hit me hard, that one. Anyway, I ended up off work for a little bit after that. That mentally sort of messed me up a bit. And I was struggling to just be back around people, and especially, we call them grubs here. Especially be around that grubby sector of community again, where you're having to police them and, tell them they can't hit their wives, all that sort of shit. And anyway, so I was away from that for a bit. And then I returned back to work, and then they put me with a guy who was very calm and could just sort of watch over me and just see how I was handling stuff. And I remember going to a job, and it was just a neighborhood dispute, just stupid shit. Anyway, I was standing at the bottom of the stairs, and I'm talking to old matey up the top of the stairs. And he goes, "Why don't you just go fuck off, you white so-and-so, rah, rah, rah."
I like that.
Anyway, in my head, I was like, how are you still here when someone so good has just been taken? You don't deserve to be here. And I went to go barreling up those stairs. I was going to throw him down the stairs. And my colleague must have saw the look on my face or whatever. And he grabbed me and he goes, "I've got this. Go and sit in the car." I went, "Oh," and he's like, "No, that's why you need to go and sit in the car. I've got this. Just go and chill out. I'll see you in the car." Anyway, lucky he did, because that would have ended badly. So,
Imagine.
anyway, so then, it's probably, it would have been 15, 16 months after I lost him. I was doing a special as well, but it was just a roadwork special, just to slow traffic down and manage everything. And we had a call of a stolen car come over the radio, and that it had just been stolen. So they had no idea that it had been reported. So we had a supervisor who was following the car in a marked police car, but no lights or anything, right? Just driving along at a little bit of a distance and calling over the radio where they were, and it was heading in our direction. So we've sort of stopped traffic and set it up in a way that they had to stop. And funnily enough, we did got it to stop. There was no incident at all. And then they must have clued on or whatever and drove the car straight at me. And all I remember is I heard the car rev up. I remember looking at the driver, and then the car coming straight at me, and then I don't remember anything else. And all I remember is getting up off the road afterwards. So there's like a good, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 seconds that I don't recall. And I still, to this day, I can't recall it. My brain's just gone, no, you don't need to remember this. But my partner at the time as well, while I was in the air, has put a round into the car as well. So anyway, the car's taken off. They eventually found the car, and they eventually got fingerprints and everything and got them. But at that moment afterwards, because obviously it's a critical incident, fired, gun's been fired, all that sort of thing. So then we're separated, sitting on the gutter waiting for whatever. In that moment, I'm like, I just about left my boys in the same position the damn son is in. What the fuck am I doing?
Bet that hit hard as hell.
Oh, mate. And that, I couldn't let that go. That was there. So, my partner that was there at the time as well, he goes, and he said, all I saw was your fluoro vest go flying. He said, I thought you were gone.
Damn.
He said, that's all I saw. He said, and then I put the round into the car.
Damn.
So but that was the compounding factor then. Right. So, I mean, everything sort of, we talk about it gradually builds up on you and you don't even see it coming. So that there was the compounding factor. And then that sat on me and I struggled with that for a little while. I came back to work and, it was an Aboriginal driver of the car. And so I just had a beeline for Aboriginals that we were dealing with in the uniform. I was just like, full, that's it. Unfortunately, and that's not me. I'm not a racist person either. So, it was just that incident that turned it on me.
Well, that kind of brings up something you wrote on your forum is, people shove this stuff inside. They withdraw, they disconnect, keep it themselves, and then they self-implode, like you were just saying. It's not a dramatic, it's not normal, but that's exactly the problem is we hold it inside, we withdraw, and like you were just saying, you become someone you're not. You weren't racist. You're not racist. But the mind makes you do things that you don't realize you're doing, and you'll start withdrawing even more after that.
Massively. And this is what I said as well. Our body will react before we'll even notice it. Right. Because you go into flight or safety mode. Right. And the body, like I said, that whole incident, I should have been able to remember that, but my brain went, no, you don't need to. And that whole clip it. And I can't tell you how many times I've tried to recall that. And I just can't.
Yeah.
So,
and that's when that sympathetic nervous system kicks in, is even when you're not trying to make it,
Yeah. Yeah. And
so, on that note of things, I know you were saying you started becoming disconnected after that. So what did that disconnection look like?
just withdrawal more than anything. Emotionally, I was withdrawn. Just the only way that I can describe it really is just becoming a shell of a person.
Gotcha.
I was physically there,
but mentally
but
not.
internally, I was not there. Spiritually, not there. I was just a shell. That's how much it affects. And that's why so many relationships fall apart. That's why so many families get torn apart. That's why people end up suiciding, right? Because they completely lose themselves. You're just functioning on a day-to-day basis. That's not healthy for anyone. I don't care who you are. We aren't robots.
Very true.
So
and
that is the unfortunate part.
So I guess on that side of things too is, what could someone's partner, spouse, family, something like that, start looking for, to notice they're starting to slip away?
Look, for me, I would say that as soon as they're starting to withdraw more than what they would normally, if people are withdrawing, then you've got to start looking at what is actually going on. Why are they withdrawing? Right? Especially from social events and stuff like that. Or, they're wanting to go and drink more often because they're just trying to drink away whatever's going on and whatever they're carrying. Because everything becomes a build-up, right? So we can go, and I mean, they say the straw that broke the camel's back. You can have some small, tedious jobs that all of a sudden it becomes too much. Yet that's a job that you've gone to 1,000 times, but it's nothing to do with that actual job. It's everything else that is built up prior to that you're still holding on to. So, I mean, if you're a partner of someone who's facing this, the biggest thing is identifying that there's a change early and go, okay, what's happening? I mean, they're still probably not going to open up,
Right, of
but
course.
as long as you identify it and say, hey, this is what I'm noticing. Is there anything I can help you with? Like I notice you're not sleeping anymore. I notice you're not, you're drinking, but we're not doing anything anymore. I notice you're disconnected from me and the kids, and like that's not normally you. Then you need to start looking to get some help. That's the easiest way. You've got to be sort of honest at the same time with what you're seeing.
Yeah, and like you said, that it makes 100% of sense as well. As you can't fix it until you notice it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because we're living it, we don't notice it.
Exactly,
Right, and that's
you
the
won't notice
problem that
unless
we
you
all
look
fall in.
for it. That's the other thing too.
What's that? Sorry.
You have to actually actively be looking for it. You can't.
Yeah, and because we're not looking for it, we never notice the difference. Right, but because other people around you are feeling the difference, they feel the change because you are distant or not there. They feel it, and then they'll identify it before we'll even notice a thing, because it's just a daily routine that has crept up gradually on us.
And that's where it starts eating you alive.
Yeah, because it's gradual. You know what I mean? Like if it was a sharp impact, like you've gone from being this jovial, social person to the next day, oh, bang, that's it, I'm not. You would notice it straight away, right? But because it is gradual and it happens after day after day after day, and it's just a small piece at a time, we never notice it.
So one thing you did write down too is you wrote the listener needs to hear that their identity doesn't match their job. That line mattered, because this field trains people for chaos, uh, but not for what happens when the chaos becomes the only place that we feel alive or that we feel valid. Like
Yeah,
you just that everyday living, it should not be you living in an everyday chaos of your sympathetic nervous system being on 24/7. You should be
yeah,
able to you should be able to deal with your family. You should be able to, not live this goddamn job.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, look, we end up with adrenal fatigue as well, right? Because, and that has an impact on the body as well.
Think about that one. That's a good point.
Oh yeah, adrenal fatigue, right? So that's a natural thing that our body produces. But if you wear, mine's gone. Mine, like I try and do things now to push the limit to try and get that adrenaline rush. It doesn't work anymore at all. Yeah, like I ride motorbikes and stuff as well. So I go for a good, stint up a mountain and stuff like that. Just don't feel that adrenaline.
Really?
Yeah. And I can
Damn.
be pushing the limit and still not feel that adrenaline. Yeah. So there's something else that we've got to be aware of, that just the natural impacts on the body itself. You start wearing some of these body parts out, you will function very, very differently.
Oh yeah, my knees feel it.
There you go. So yeah, there's so many different impacts. So many different.
So if someone starts to notice this and they start trying to get better, um, how do you recommend them go about rebuilding themselves?
Okay, so my strategy was, because I was very anti-medication, mine was about stripping my life back, right? So basically stripping everything back and rebuilding from the ground up. So I wanted to know what was good for me, what wasn't good for me, whatever wasn't good for me, people, places, anything, I'd strip that back. I went, okay, yeah, you sort of work out, okay, who's hanging on to me for the wrong reasons as well, right? And then sort of holding me in a place that I didn't want to be anymore. So I would gradually then hold them at a distance because I needed to feel better for myself, right? So I don't need someone else that's holding me in a place either. So sometimes you have to strip some people back out of your life as well. So that's what I did. I went, okay, who works for me? What doesn't work for me? Who's just a bit of a dead weight that is holding me in a place that I don't want to be anymore? Then I culled them back or I let them go completely. So that's the only way to do it. You've got to strip your life back and go, okay, what's important to me now? Right? Because we live, we grow, things change, our life changes, we change. But then I had to go, okay, what is important to me now? What makes me feel alive? Going on motorbike rides is my freedom.
That's awesome.
But also is, my boys. My boys are a huge part of my life. And they're a massive driver for me. So everything was about how do I become the best version of myself again for them? Because they weren't seeing the best version of me. I wasn't a great role model for them as a father when I was in that state. So how do I get me back again to be able to give them that version and be that leader and that role? That's what I went for.
It's awesome. And that kind of brings me to my next point here is your work now, connects fatherhood to becoming a better man outside the job. And that what you just pretty much you just said it, that matters because the field can make you dependable to strangers and unavailable to people who actually need you at home, like your boys or my daughters and my son. And that it's we all have to be better for ourselves, be better for our families.
Yeah, 100%. Man, with the family dynamics lately, and I've heard that the US is the same. Families are breaking apart so much these days, right? And then you've got all these kids that are ending up fatherless, or fathers are at a distance now. The impact on our kids shows through their behavior, especially when they become young adults, right? And that doesn't matter whether they're boys or girls. It affects both. So I see that, and I look at my boys as well. Funnily enough, how everything came up for them. Like I was hiding the fact that had been let go from the police.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
Yeah, from them
Right.
because they were still young, right? They were in primary school at the time, and they, I saw them as okay. They look up to me because I'm in the police. I'm the hero. I'm dad. Rah rah rah, and so I'd hid all of that. I didn't say anything about it, and it wasn't till my eldest boy, who was doing an assignment for school, he was talking about it was all about dogs or pets, but I think it was more predominantly dogs and how they help people. And he went down the route of, police dogs and searching dogs, and all of this sort of thing, companion dogs, like for PTSD. He went right down this whole like rabbit hole. And he ended up saying to me, because we were talking about something, he said, "Dad, do you have PTSD?" And I was like, holy shit. where has this come from? And it made me go, you know what? Now's the right time to probably have this conversation. So I had the conversation with him first and just said, righto, I'm just going to let you know, yes, I do. I'm not in the police anymore. I am suffering from PTSD. That was the reason why I'm not in the job anymore. And mate, can I tell you, that was the most freeing moment in me and my boy's life.
I bet. I bet that was a big relief of pressure and stress and all of it, really.
Wow, man. Like and it changed our relationship straight away.
That's awesome.
And I mean for a positive. I was honest with him. I was open with him. I'm like, hey, life's going to throw you, things that you don't expect to happen, but you just got to, it's about how you get up from it and how you deal with it. And I've been that way with them ever since. I don't wrap them in cotton wool. We talk about everything. Like, hey, yep, this stuff can happen. How would you deal with it? And they're two very level-headed boys. One's now, nearly 17 and the other one's 18.
Wow. I'm right there with you, but with girls. I got an 18, 17, and an 8-year-old. So, yay. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does being a better dad mean to you now? I know you kind of covered it.
Oh, look, there's so many elements to it. But the biggest thing in regards to being a better dad is not carrying your weight of life and projecting it onto your kids. You can teach your kids about what life is, but without projecting everything that you've gone through onto them, right? So no different to, say I'm scared of motorbikes, right? As a parent, and I've been in a motorbike accident, and I'm going to project all of this stuff onto my kids. No, you're not going to ride a motorbike. They're dangerous. They're this. They're this. They're this. Rah, rah, rah. Your kids need to find who they are. If we are projecting our bullshit and our history onto them, you are not allowing them to find themselves. Us as parents are there to help guide them. A lot of kids need to learn from mistakes, unfortunately.
True.
Right?
Back when I was a kid, I had to learn from my mistakes.
That was how I grew up as well. And I had a really stern father. So
I had a military father, so yeah.
Yeah. And that's, it's how it was, right? That's how life was back then. But today is very different. And I'm more about, okay, I'm educating my boys on how to be a better man, especially in today's society. All right. So I'll give you an example of something. So obviously as a copper, I saw so much, right? So my boys were coming of age where they were going to start going to parties and stuff like that. And I told them a story around a girl, she was attempting suicide. And then I found out the story as to why that was. I said she had been raped at 14 years of age, and she had been in a hospital to try and help her deal with that, and had been released back to her home with her mum. And on the back deck has decided to slice her wrists up. And when we got there, there was a pool of blood all over the table. And we got her. We got there, got her saved, got the ambos there, and then off to the hospital. But I said to both of them, I said, there's a story in this for you, because you guys are going to be coming to an age where you're going to be at parties. And you may see a girl who is still young and has drunk too much and has no idea of what her capacity is, and will have no idea what the environment is that she's around and who might take advantage of her. You are going to see boys who are going to drink too much and lose their control over what they're doing. So do not ever be a bystander. I said, because if you wake up the next day and you find out that a girl that you know from the party has been raped by someone at that party and you could have done something about it, that'll weigh on you.
I
So
bet.
do not ever be a bystander to anything. So, funnily enough, I know some parents of a girl who frequents parties that my eldest boy goes to, and they were commenting that he looks out for all the girls.
Oh, that's cool. I bet you're proud right there.
Man, like some of the comments that I've heard come back have been, like, holy shit, I've done something right.
That's fucking awesome. I bet you were a proud
You
dad.
know? Yeah. And I mean, he's a big kid too. Like, I'm not talking like as big and heavy. I mean, he's a muscle unit. Yeah. So people are scared of him, and yet he's one of the nicest guys around. But he told me he saw his actual mates from school who were lurking around this girl who had obviously had too much to drink. And then she was getting up to go to the toilet, and two of his mates started to follow her, and he grabbed him. He said, "No, you're not. Go and sit down." And he followed her to the bathroom, stood outside the door, waited for her to finish, come out, and just made sure she went back out in front of everyone. So he said, yeah, he said, those are mates of mine that have obviously had too much to drink. He said, but it wasn't comfortable. I was like, there you go. So that's what I mean, right? But being a better dad now is about not projecting your shit onto them, but teaching them, especially today's age where they've got access to so much. So we've got to teach them, okay, if you're in this position, like, just don't just stand by and watch. It's the impact of something you might think is small and you walking away from something can be catastrophic.
Snowball
So
effect.
massive. And my biggest thing as well is just making sure you're present, because I've been in that position where I haven't been. Like I said, I was a shell of a person. Yeah, I might have been physically there, but I was nowhere to be seen. Right? So presence is huge. It takes nothing for, if your kid comes up, oh, come and play. Yeah, come and hit the ball with me, or throw the ball with me, or something, just for, just want to, all it takes is 10 minutes.
Right.
They don't want, hours, but just give them 10, 15, 20 minutes. They just want to know that you're there. So
That's sometimes the biggest thing. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that once you got better with your sons, that your spousal relationships or girlfriends probably got better in the end as well.
mate, everything has a flow-on effect. 100%. Yeah, I mean, admittedly though, I was single for 13 years. Yeah, so I made sure, because my boys were my priority, and I didn't want a negative influence around them, because I was like very much, okay, I want my boys to grow up with these qualities. I want them to have an understanding. And if anyone was around that I thought was, hold on, you're a bit of a negative, like you don't eat well, you don't look after yourself, then I didn't want them around, because that rubs off onto them. So, I'm with someone now, and we've been together for 2 years, and she's great with them. Supports them, like, gives them advice around food and this and that and the other as well. Like, it's very well balanced. But it's huge to make sure that you've got that connection there with them.
So what about the people who say to themselves, that there's nothing after the job?
Well, there is stuff after the job, but you have to strip your life back because your identity is very, very different. You need to find yourself again, whatever that looks like for you. Everyone's different. It could be could be having a hobby that is, bird watching. Could be whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. Photography, something that just soothes you but makes you feel good and brings you back to you.
That's awesome. So before we wrap up today, just want to say something quick because it connects to kind of what we talked about today. Part of refusing to be swallowed by the job is choosing to grow inside. So for me, one of my next steps to do this for myself is I want to go to the University of Florida critical care program, not just for the patch, not just for titles, but because I still want to get better at my field, help my patients, and I want to be able to sharpen my own blade without losing myself in the process. So anyone listening, I'm ready to donate. Please go to the website criticalrun.com or critical-run.com. Courier, so don't go to that one. But it's on there, so no pressure, no guilt, just putting it out there for everybody. And then, you know, for you, Joe, I want to ask if someone's listening right now, alone tonight or today, uh, what is it that they need to hear from you?
That your life is not dictated to by your uniform, and it is just a job. If you are gone tomorrow, the world still goes on. So you are the priority, and that's the person under the uniform. Take the time, make sure that you're living your best life. You're turning up to that job. They don't care. You're just a payroll number. That's what I found out the hard way. Understand you're a payroll number, and it's just a job. Go and do it the best that you can, but make sure that you're looking after number one as a priority.
Yes, sir. And one more question for you. So if someone wants to follow your work, reach out, learn more about what you do, where can they go to learn that?
So website is joe-betterdad.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, on YouTube. So there's a few different platforms there, but definitely just send a message and reach out.
And where's your book? Is it on your website as well?
It is on my website. Yeah. I've got a few different books there, but some of them are, so I even hand it, I've got a lot of older school guys that I've known, and I've handed it to them just to get a bit of a feedback before I've put it out there. And the comments I've got back were like, oh my God, I just saw myself in this book. Like, I wish I had have read this earlier. Like, this has just smacked me in the face. So, yeah.
I've heard that about my book, and I haven't been able to write another one yet. But anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm very quick to go, right, okay, I've got this. Right. There's also another element here, but I'm not covering it in this book, so I want to put it in the next one. So
I'm not very organized with that stuff. So this has been Dispected as Functional. Today's conversation was about identity, fatherhood, the weight we carry home, and the hard truth that you can love the job and still refuse to let it become your entire life. Remember, you're not the job. You're not your worst calls. You're not your goddamn uniform. And you are not weak because you finally admit the weight finally got heavy. Reach out to somebody. Reach out to anybody. Here in the U.S., 988 is a good suicide line. I'm not sure about Australia, but
yeah, We've got
Make sure no
different support lines.
Right. Go ahead and hit stop.
If you think it's too heavy to say it anyway. It beats a eulogy. You don't have to apologize for surviving however you can. You're not the reason things are heavy. You're the reason they're still moving. Need support right now? Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody. Text or call 988 or visit 988lifeline.org. You're not alone. Not in this job. Not in this fight. Want to share your story or connect? Visit critical-run.com or message the Facebook page, Dispatched and Dysfunctional. We're building this for you, for them, for all of us.